Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to paint this bold and colourful scene in just half an hour. I've taken about 5 minutes to sketch the background picture in. Just make sure you get this jetty/bridge going into the distance and also the horizon line, and if you want, add a few figures in the foreground. What I'm doing is I'm mixing together some 𝗘𝗕𝗤𝗡𝗏 yellow with a bit of that pyrrole red and bringing that wash up. So it's quite a light wash, I'd say about a quarter paint to 3/4 water, and just bringing that further up into the page. So these are a couple of paintings that I did a while ago, and I would actually like to talk about style later on in the context of these paintings. So hang around till the end of the video and I'll talk more about style later and just some of my opinions and tips on it. Now, continuing on with the painting, you'll notice that I've added in some blue up the top. That's cobalt blue, about a half mix of paint, half mix of water, and I've allowed that to mix in, just touching the top of where that orange mix has ended. So all this has to be done while the paper's wet. I'm just making it darker in some spots near the top, just adding a little bit more variation. I've also tilted the paper downwards more just to encourage these two colors to mix together. Moving further down the page, I'm adding in a bit of this pyrrole red, just feathering it in across the page and making sure that I'm covering all the white. Mixing up a bit of blue now, this is cobalt blue, and allowing some of that to run into the wash above it. Adding a few loose strokes here and there. And now I'm just carrying that wash further down into the page, just to indicate the sea, the water coming closer to the shoreline, and at the bottom I'm bringing it back again just to make it warmer, though it looks like I've mixed that a bit of the blue in there as well, so it does look like a greenish yellow. Okay, so that's all pretty much done now. I'm letting that dry off a little bit, but I do want the paper to be slightly damp for this next part. Now I like to add in waves wet on wet, just allows for a softer kind of effect. So I'm mixing up a bit of thicker blue now. And with the smaller paintbrush, just indicating in the distance some small waves. I've swapped over to a rigger brush, and I'm just dropping in little bits of that dark blue while the paper's still wet. There's parts of it that has already dried, but that's not a big deal. So I'm just feathering that across in some areas and making sure the waves that I'm doing at the back are also a little bit smaller. It's all quite abstract at this point. Now I'm trying to get in some of the jetty here, /bridge, and I'm using a round brush just to draw them all in and indicate that bridge now going out further into the distance. And it's up to you how detailed you want to make it. I mean, at this point I could even stop, because you can generally see what it is, but I've gone a bit further. Also added in some sharper waves beneath the jetty too, as the paper's dried, and just some of the details here. So there's a little shack up the top, some of the railing for the bridge. Don't need to be too precise. Just want to indicate there's some lights. And here I'm just adding in some darker areas beneath and outlining some of the areas underneath the bridge. Just detailing that a bit more. I'm kind of thinking here whether I should bring that jetty further into the foreground. I've just added a little part very loosely there. The main thing is just to make sure that with all your brush strokes you're keeping them quite consistent with each other. You don't want to make anything too detailed or to stand out too much. Now I'm just adding in the figures in the foreground very quickly there. And some more detail underneath the bridge. From here on, you're just looking at little bits and pieces that you want to add, and it's up to you how much detail you want to put in. The main thing I wanted to focus on with this painting was mainly the background washes. I wanted to just experiment with some different colors and wash effects. So I've just added in some birds in the distance now and drying that all off. The last thing I'm going to do is just add a bit of gouache, a little bit of white gouache to some areas in the painting. And it's pretty much done. Below are two of my paintings that I painted in different styles, and looking back I can say that I enjoyed painting the one on the right more than the one on the left. And the reason for that is that I felt more free to put a bit of my own flair into it. And I find reference pictures to be pretty helpful when I paint landscapes, but also I don't want to be constrained by it. It's really a personal preference, though I think it's important to try different styles and study other artists so you can come up with your own style. I do that a lot even today, and always find it fascinating how different painters will come up with a unique way of portraying what they see. But look, the main point is that as long as you're happy with your painting, there's really no right or wrong way. Thanks for hanging around till the end. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment or any questions below, and also remember to subscribe if you want to see more weekly tutorials.